today I'm going to show you how to do plaits, picots on both sides of the plaits, and also the Bedfordshire buds, which are often half stitch but can be worked in 2-3 different ways. The plaits we start off with are the lines marked on the pattern, and you can see on this one I have 2 holes, one either side. These are often seen on Bedfordshire patterns like this. Starting off with a plait is basically a continuous half stitch. So depending on which way you've been taught to do a half stitch, this is one way. That is a half stitch. Or sometimes people have been taught cross, twist, and each time tension it up. And we do this until we get to the first picot. I have covered picots in another video as well, but I'm going to show you again today. We already have 1 twist on. I put a further 4 twists on to make 5 twists to go around the pin. I put the pin under the right hand thread because it's on the right hand side of the plait, underneath, and bring the pin towards me. This gives you a loop around the pin, and you can either put the pin in the hole or to the side of where you're going to make the picot, keeping this really loose. Don't put any tension on it at all. Take the second thread, the second bobbin, and follow it around the same direction, which is around the outside, and end up on the inside. Put it down, just jiggle the threads a little and tension it up. This puts the twists around the pin, and then we put on the 2 twists after it. Now, because on this one we have a picot exactly opposite, we do a half stitch between them, and then we work the left hand picot. So again, we've already got 1 twist on from the half stitch, put a further 4 twists on, which is the right bobbin over the left, the pin on the outside thread. I'm just going to zoom out again so you can see what I'm doing with my hands. On the outside of the thread, around. Now this time I'll put it on the outside so you can see how that's done there. Take the thread around, and so you end up with both bobbins on the inside of the pin where they want to be. Put 2 twists on, and then as we slide it in, those twists go around the pin. And once you've got it in there, again, just give the little bit of attention. And then we go back into the half stitch. So it's continuous half stitch. I was just speeding it up a little bit there. Now generally I tension up after every 2 stitches. You can do it after every 1, depending on the thickness of your thread really. I'm just going to put that in there to help me tension it up to it, make sure the plait is the right length for it, and that's quite good. Middle one I've already done. The right hand one I'm going to do exactly the same. This time I'm going to do the left picot first because it's higher, and then the right picot. So again, put the twists on, pin on the outside thread, left, and turn it round, push it in the hole. And I'll zoom in for the second one so you can see, hopefully, what I'm doing. Half stitch between them, twists on the outside and around, and then finish the plait. Now there are at least 3 ways of working these half stitch spots, one of which is not even half stitch. But these Bedfordshire buds, generally they are 6 pin circles, Sometimes there can be 8, you can have 8 pairs going into it, but very often they are 6 pairs going in, 3 plaits into 6 holes. So we start off with put a pin in the top hole at the end of the plait. And just tension it up to make sure your plait is nice, and then decide which direction you're going to go. Now if you're working a piece of lace with these in as a ground, you may prefer to do them all in one direction, so look at it and make a note if you need to which direction you're going to go. In this case I'm going to go to the left first and then to the right. So we do a half stitch to cover that, and then we've got this plait coming in. We do a half stitch and a half stitch. Now the two different ways of doing these, you can either just put a second twist on the one that is going to go around the pin. The second method I'll show you on the second half stitch bud. Half stitch all the way back through, and this time you've got another plait coming in, so another 2 pairs to half stitch through, one more twist on to go around the pin, and each time you tension it up as you always do. And this time you're coming back through all of the pairs, and as you can see there is now a line from this next pinhole going out. One more twist, pin up. This time after you've half stitched the first 2 pairs, they will stay out to become that plait. So half stitch to the right, and this one, the second plait is being left out, so half stitch through, leave 2 pairs out for a plait, and then through to the bottom one. One more twist and the last pin up. And that is the first way of working the Bedfordshire spot. The second way of working, I've just worked the plaits down to get them to the next bud. Again we put the pin in at the centre plait to start the process. We're going to half stitch to the left, taking in that last pair, but this time instead of putting the extra twist on, we're going to do a second half stitch. You do 2 half stitches before the pin, or a double half stitch as it's sometimes known, or even cloth stitch and twist, depending on your terminology and how your brain works. It depends which is the easiest way to think of. So just half stitch back through, take in the next right hand plait, and again a second half stitch. So you just put in a second half stitch before each pin, not afterwards, just before it. And back through. This time we're going to be leaving them out, so a double half stitch, and this half stitch bud gets a firmer edge by doing the second half stitch on it. And very often if you want a really substantial edge to anything, you do this double half stitch. The extra twist and the extra stitch make all the difference. The left hand one is now left out for the plait. And a double half stitch to finish on the last pinhole. When I've taken it off, I'll show you at the end, it will make a little bit of difference. It doesn't make so much difference on the small spots like this, but on larger areas of half stitch it does make a difference. The last way of working these Bedfordshire buds is slightly different. It's a way that was seen in a lot of historical pieces of Bedfordshire, and Margaret Tite taught me that this way was the way it was done traditionally because of speed. This way is much faster, but your eyes still read it as being a half stitch bud. So we start off, we put a pin at the end of each of the 3 plaits, and we're going to actually work it in cloth stitch this time. We're going to take the 3 on the right through the 3 on the left. So we start in the middle with the middle 2, and we take this right hand one all the way through to the left in cloth stitch, and then the next one from the right through the 3 from the left, and the final one. We then put a pin at the end of each of the pairs. I'll put a twist on because it's going to go into a half stitch plait. And the nature of this makes you think, when you glance at the piece of lace, that it is actually half stitch, and yet really it's been done in cloth stitch. It's been done very, very quickly. As I say, this was how it was seen in a lot of old pieces of lace, and you can still find them today when you start looking for them. I hope you've enjoyed this video. It's been a quick one today, just to show you 3 different methods for working the Bedfordshire buds. If you've enjoyed it, please subscribe, and then you'll be notified when I put new ones up. I'm aiming to do 1 a week at the moment. If there's any subjects you would like to see, any topics within lace, any techniques that you're struggling with, please let me know, and I'll see if I can add them to the list to be filmed in the near future. Thanks for watching, hope you've enjoyed it.